You're feeling weak. This one plagues me every month, same time of the month. Flo will tell me literally every month, oh, you're going to bitch about feeling weak today because you've done this the last 9 months. And prior to that, the reason you don't have any logs or you don't have any kind of recollection of you doing this before then is because you didn't log. I'm telling you every month around the same time. Like it's like literally the week before my period, those last 3 lower sessions, that final week, I can be recovered. I can be overfed. I can be, just completely metaphorically high on life and just like, okay, I got my pre-workout. I'm ready. I'm recovered, got a massage, and I can still go in and be like, this is hard. That's where I think one, being very clear about like, okay, why is it that I feel weak? Do I feel weak because of any like obvious reason, like Occam's razor? Is it because I'm about to get my period? Is it because I'm on my period and that's exactly what's causing me to feel weak? And does this happen every single month? Okay, if that's the case, tell yourself, and I encourage a little bit of like firmer like self-talk. You don't get to be mad about that because this is expected. This is something that very much we can like accept. And I mean, I'm mostly joking, but like truly for me, like I think like intellectualizing and making sense of why these feelings might happen and where they're coming from and whether I even agree with them or not. I feel weak and now I'm upset and now I don't want to work out because I feel fucking weak. Hey, Corey, it's the week before your period. Like, of course you feel weak. You felt weak and look, okay, see the next week, you know what then happens? You come back, you get your period and you're not weak. Like overnight, if you were to compare the weight you lifted last week to this week, it looks like you did so good. It like you increased weight so much just if you look at those 2 single weeks. Now, what I will say though, if it's not an instance where we can be like, yeah, you know what? It is the period. That's what's lending to this decrease in strength. Let's look at recoverability. This was a big one for me recently. This last like month, I really struggled. And this is where I am so grateful I got to lean on Jordan because he's like, hey, we can make sense of this. We can give you the objectives that you need, but it's truly going to take you accepting that not every workout can you just send it. You can't go in and just have this expectation that you're going to be able to train at max capacity because you're training glutes and you're training glutes at a frequency and you're training at an intensity where you're trying to bury yourself. And if you're burying yourself, like think about this, like even like picture it, like you're burying yourself, like you have to dig yourself, like you have to recoup. And if you're not giving yourself enough time to recoup, which training glutes, training lower 3 times a week, like there's barely enough time anyway. There's probably going to be a day in between. It's probably going to be that legs B session, lower B, where ultimately it is lower stimulus. The intention is different. And I think like we've had some really good conversations, which at this point you will be able to access my episode with Dr. Jordan Dunta on Patreon tier 3. That is up and live now as of early September, where we talk specifically about that. Is like being intentional with the training, being very clear on like, what is my purpose today? What am I trying to accomplish? What is realistic? You can go in and you can say like, okay, the goal is to send it. The goal is to do everything under the sun to the best of my ability. But if you've not recovered well enough to support that, to support you, like truly like you being able to get everything that you want out of this session, well, then that expectation, that is unrealistic. And it might be disappointing if you don't calibrate those expectations prior to going in. So big things here. Is it rooted in reality? If it's not rooted in reality, then do your due diligence, talk the irrational version of you that is now on the ledge, talk them off the ledge and be like, hey, we don't need to be mad about this because this is a feeling. It is transient. It will pass. It is not rooted in reality. It's not something we need to problem solve right now. The anxiety is coming from wanting to problem solve. And if the problem is not rooted in reality, we don't need to necessarily problem solve. We just need to get out of that feeling. And that might mean and like grounding in a physical sense of like, if you're like looking at IG and you're just like, oh, I feel weak and this girl's lifting this much and like this is what I was lifting before and now I'm fatter and I don't like the way I look and I'm not able to perform. It's like, yo, just like stop, go outside, touch grass. Don't look directly at the sun, but look at the sky. Something to that effect. Remove yourself from the situation that's perpetuating you being in this state, this point in which you're not being able to be productive.